Hey guys, Corey here again for video 3. I hope I can count that high. You know, we haven't done that many, so I hope I haven't lost count. For the cloud server tutorial, and now we are adding in commands to the server. Well, not server per se, sorry, the handler that he will take care of. Particularly in mind, I had file sharing commands. So let's get to it. Okay, let's jump right in. So right here, okay. So we're going to print the message out, but we're also going to do a couple things. We're going to say if message, and remember message is a string at this point. So if message, explain what I'm doing in one sec. Download file. I'm just gonna set them up real fast. Alright, so I'm gonna have two commands on my server. Download file or -df and -uf. This is how I like to do it. You can obviously do your commands any way you want. So I'm gonna check if the first 3 letters of download file are this, right? Because remember, we start counting at 0, and this is non-inclusive right here, okay? So basically what this says is start at, 0. I don't have to put it in a defaults to that. And continue all the way to the number 2 index, right? Which is the 3rd letter. And so if those guys are equal to df or uf, we're going to do different things, okay? So in this case, I'm going self dot, I'll get file name is equal to now why didn't I do 3 on? Well, obviously they're going to probably type in a command like this, right? The command's probably going to be download file test file.txt like that, right? So 0, 1, 2 is the command. The 3rd index is a space, but 4 to the end of it is our file name, right? So I'm going to start at 4, and just putting nothing here just goes to the end of it, right? And I'm going to do self dot send file name like that. Okay, that's what we're going to define that file name in a second. And then for upload file means they're going to send us a file, but it's probably going to come in the same exact way. File name right after that. Self dot receive file. Okay, with the file name. All right, perfect. So what we're going to do here is we're going to define these two guys now. Other commands we may want to do. There's probably not that many at the moment. There is one more that we could do, which I will throw in here. In case we want the user, if we accounted for every possibility and put in a bunch of commands, it would take a while, right? A handy thing for them to be able to do if they're connecting is to move around on the server itself, okay? So we will do a special little thing and say, otherwise, if message is not recognized, we are going to send it to the computer's command line and let it deal with that. Okay, so it's almost like we're writing an extension for the command line right here. So how do we do that? Well, the message, okay. You're going to do something like this. You're going to do set process dot p open. Now I'm going to write this out. And we will do it in 1 second. Oh, actually, I can just put in message, and then it goes shell equals true, if I remember right, and then it's std out equals subprocess.pipe std error equals. Now this is a lot to take in right now for this one command. I'm going to stretch this guy out. I'm going to make him go full screen for us. We'll assign that to some dude. Result is equal to Okay. So what is going on here? Oh, a lot of stuff. So what's happening is subprocess has a command called popen that allows you to send a message to your command line. How convenient. Shell equals true. I actually don't 100% know what this does. I think it just opens up the command line or something, or like opens up a new instance of the command line. I see it, like I know you have to default it in there. I have seen people do this, and I have done this command dozens of times. I wasn't, after reading the documentation, I wasn't quite sure what it did, to be honest, but I've seen everyone use it ever. I think it's just like, in Python 2 where you have to type in default values or whatever. I think that's kind of what shell is. It's just a non-defaulted value they just make you put in for some reason. The standard output, okay, so when your command line wants to put out something, it has a standard output kind of channel, right? And so this subprocess.popen, it's going to read that stuff in, right? It's going to read in the standard output of the command line and says, where do you want me to send this? Okay, where do you want me to send what the command line is spitting out? And we say, send it to the subprocess's pipe. Okay, send it back to us. Send it back to whatever we call, it's going to return it from the function, right? We just call a function, and it's going to say subprocess.pipe is all it's saying is make this function return, what's coming out of this standard out. And same for standard error. If we input some gobbledygook, it's going to send in some random commands back saying, it's not recognized, man, I don't know what you're trying to do here. And we're saying the same thing, just pipe it back to us, okay? Just send it right back to us. And now result is equal to, and I'm going to store, it returns like a class, or an object, sorry. It returns an object of all this info of, the standard output that came, the standard error that came, and all this little itty bitty stuff. Okay, that's coming back our way. So I'm going to so I store that class in the result, but I don't need the class anymore in the sense that I just need to read the input back from us. So in fact, I'm just going to make the names less confusing, I'm just going to do this. Command is equal to that, and results is equal to command.stderr.read. Okay, like that. And then plus command.std, that should be out, my bad. And the great thing about this is it looks like we're combining them into one string, so we'll get like the output and the error in one string. That'll be annoying to read. But if you put in a proper command, it won't give us usually an error. So we'll just get the results of the command. And so, but if we put in like an unknown command, all it will give us is an error, right? So we either usually get one or the other. So when we get the results, it'll be perfectly clear what we're getting. Okay. There's only one command that will give us trouble when we do that. And it's a command that doesn't give results. Now, you may have noticed testing it out yourself, if you have been, that if I don't send anything, if I just hit the enter key, if I just hit the enter key and it sends nothing over the socket, it doesn't even send a terminal bit, right? Because it literally sends nothing. So the other guy is still waiting. He gets caught in one of those endless loops we don't like. And so if I were to do the cd command that you've seen me done on my command line, and I were to change directory, well, that doesn't return anything, which is bad for us. Because this guy will he will send over nothing, which is really bad for us in the future. Because how we're going to make these runs, I got caught up looking at something, how we're going to make this work is when you send a message as a client, the server is going to respond on whether that succeeded, like an error, or it'll send the file back, or it'll tell you it received it correctly, stuff like that, so we know things are working, okay, on the client end. So even this will send us back. All right, we'll do results. In fact, we'll start making a results variable. Okay. We'll do stuff like this. We'll go downloaded show you what I'm talking about. Downloaded file. Uploaded file. And then at the end of it, we'll just have self.con.send. Yeah. Send data results. There we go. So it'll send it at the end of it. So we will, on the other hand, have to make the client over here, of course. We'll add in the commands in a second. $10.24, like that. Okay. So he knows what's up, what's going on. Spelled that wrong. Okay. So, what are we going to do with CD? Okay, so we'll elif message, we'll have to go up to the second one this time, equals CD, directory is equal to message onward, like that. And I need to import the OS library for this. os.changedir, pretty handy that that's there. Directory. And then I will do results equals os.whoops. Put that in string. I forget if it returns a string or not. I'm just going to put it in there just to be safe. os.get current working directory. So when we change the directory, we'd probably want it to send the current working directory. Just a thought. So each case, we have a results message that will be sent back so the client can know whether things are working smoothly or not. That's probably pretty important. I mean, if you're on Google Drive and you upload your homework to it, and Google doesn't tell you that there was an error, I'd get pretty peeved. Right now, if there's an error, it wouldn't tell us, but we'll add that in a future video. Right now, we just want to get basic commands working. Now, send file. Now we're going to write our file stuff. I like to do camel case, I'm going to keep that up. Def. We'll put it up here. Group all the receiving and sending stuff together. That's how I like to do it. Okay. All right. Send file. So how are we going to send this file? Well, first we're going to do with open. The usefulness of an open statement in this case is that we don't have to remember, you always have to close a file once you work with it. And if we use with, a with statement, when the with statement's over, it automatically clears it out, closes it, and everything. So we don't have to, we're not as pressured to remember to close it or do some other operations with it. With statements are pretty useful. With open file name, as we're going to read binary. Okay. Okay. All right, so we're going to read in binary to make it easier for us to send it. And plus, also, we want to do that because we don't want to read in strings. Say we're sending a picture, right? All right, right here when they're supposed to... Oh, no, that works. Okay. Yeah. Just want to make sure I put the right command somewhere. Sometimes I always mix up who's supposed to do what because they're supposed to be flip-flop. Like, for here, when we put this in, we're going to almost put this in word for word in the client. But instead here, he's sending file and receiving file. They flip-flop, right? So they're like equal but opposite. Okay. So if we're trying to send a picture and we try to just do read, which this is supposed to be in quotes, if we just do read, it's going to try and like read in the picture as a bunch of words, and it's going to get really nasty when we try and send it or do anything with it. So we go RB for read in binary. Okay, just saves us some time. Okay. So I'm going to go data equals file.read 1024. Okay. Okay. Now, do something. While let's tell you what I'm doing. 1 sec. I'll just give it like hi. Oh yeah. Default. Okay, so I'm going to say while there's still data to read, okay? Because this down here, this data equals file.read, if it returns nothing, I don't want to send it, right? So I'm just going to say while data up here. But this won't even run unless there's something inside of data. So I just gave it just a word inside of it, and I just said default. And I encoded it just to make sure that it's already holding bytes, so that when we try to put in bytes to it, it won't give us an error. One thing we need to think about is the other guy is trying to receive, at most, 1024 bytes, 1024. What if we send 2048? Now there's a problem, because he'll only read in 1024 of them. So when he goes in to read in the next message, the remaining 1024 is still waiting there to be received, right? It's still in the connection, the pipe. It's kind of overflowing back in. So when he goes to read the next message, he'll read the half that he was supposed to get, and he won't get the guy on the far end, right? So he'll be lagging. He'll be a message behind. So if we're going to have him receiving 1024 bytes, we might as well be sending 1024 bytes, right? Because we can only send multiples of 2. Well, you can send odd numbers of bytes across, but it's recommended, if you look at the documentation, that you send even numbers. It's more stable that way. And whatever makes your program more stable, as long as it's within reason, you should probably do it. So we're going to read in 1024 bytes at a time and send 1024 bytes at a time until we're done, and then we'll let the other guy know. Okay. So we'll go data equals file.read. Okay. You know, I'm just going to call this a true while true statement and just break out when there's nothing left. So while true, data equals file.read. If data, we're obviously going to send it. Otherwise, though, we're going to break. We're going to send something real fast before. So, self.con.send data. Okay? So we're going to send this data across, and we're going to send it 1024 bytes at a time. So as long as there's 1024 bytes in data, it's just going to send it, no problem, no issue. But as soon as there's nothing in data, we will self.con.send the message. There's no difference, by the way, between these. I just sometimes use one or the other. I will send that dot encode like that. So if the other guy, every time, what I'm thinking here, every time we do this, he'll be receiving data over and over and over. He'll be sending it to the file. Okay, next bit, put it in there, next bit, next bit. And as soon as he reads error, he'll be like, error. No, sorry, I usually use that for error. Done. That's what I'll do. Done. Sorry, I was thinking ahead of myself for error handling. I've done a lot of cloud stuff. But so as soon as he says done, the guy's like, okay, I'm done. He'll pack up the file, save it on the computer. He's done. And then they'll go back to their normal relationship. Okay. And that's that. Pretty self-explanatory on what's going on here. Huh. Okay. It looks good. Let me look over it. Well, true data was found out. Read if data self.con.send data self.con.send done. Yeah, no, that looks good. That looks good to me. Okay. All right. Just want to make sure we're doing it. So this guy's going to be doing the opposite. Okay. So with open write binary, because we're writing bytes to it, right? Because we're receiving some bytes from the thing, we might as well just write it as binary. If we were writing it as words and they were sending an image, it could get a little nasty. Well, I mean, it would get a little nasty. There's no doubt about it. So I'm going to say while true data equals self.con.receive 1024. Okay. And I will say if data.decode UTF-8, if data is less than 1024, and data dot actually size of, there we go. Okay. Oops. So I'm just going to check if it's 1024 and then decode it. Otherwise, why waste all this time decoding it if we know there's no chance it's going to hold the message, you know, if it's done. Oh, actually, there is a chance that it'll send exactly 1024 bytes this last time. Yeah. I'm just going to do this. All right, so if data.decode UTF-8 equals the message, whoops, done, break, else, file.write, data. Pretty simple, honestly. As long as we're receiving data and we're not done, we're just going to keep writing it to the file. Pretty self-explanatory here. Now what I'm going to do is now we're going to deal with the client. Okay? So let's pull him up. I have an itch that I need to scratch. All right. And honestly, I'm done printing the message. Okay, so pretty much I can do the exact same thing. All right. I'm actually not going to copy paste it over, just so we can go again, right? Going through the thought process again. So I'll check if message 3 is equal to something. Just Control C that. Whoops, don't want to do that. LF. Message here, if message is equal to, what do we have? Do it in the same order. Upload file, upload file. Print results. Gotta do that. Gotta remember to decode it. Now, so if we are downloading the file, and as you notice, this isn't a class yet. We're going to make it in the future, but right now there's not. You can go overboard on making classes, okay? If they're not so much to do with them, if there's not so much inside of them, you don't need to make them into a class. So if we're downloading the file from the server, now we're going to receive the file, okay? If we're now the ones uploading it, we're going to be the ones sending the file. Okay. file name equals message for on. For on. Fantastic. Looking good. Okay. In fact, we don't need to do anything if it's not one of these two guys, because then we can just chill and wait for our results. Let's write, once again, let's copy pasta over send file. Yeah, actually, I need to put it up top. That's something we're gonna ruin. Oh no, yeah, for this guy I do. Not in the class. For the classes, you don't need to put the functions up top because the self thing takes care of that. But for this guy, we're gonna need to put him up top until we make him a class. Man, I hate doing that. It makes it look ugly. We'll need to take out self. Few minor adjustments since we're not working with a class here. We'll need to take that out. And we will instead put in a connection. So we're not working with a class anymore, so we can't do the self stuff. It's all the selves I see. So now when we come down here, we also have to pass in sock. Now this will change when we make it into a class, probably once we clean it up a bit and add in some error handling. Probably next video, honestly. I can't see much more that we need to do before then. There's one problem though. There's one. Looking good, looking good, looking real good. One last overview. Should be working. All right, great. I think it's ready to test. Let me get on that right now. Okay, no errors, great. CD desktop. B Python, B client.py, connected to server, passing off client. Oh. Socket object as not use self.com to send data. Oh, we need to do, whoops. I know what we did. Bye. Yeah, right in here. Send data, where was it? So we told our connection to do the send right here, send data, but that is not something that it can do. I think it's, right here. Self.send data results. All right, good. That'll take care of that for us. Okay. I'm going to pause it real fast, actually, and make sure that there are no other errors, because I'm sure you guys don't want to sit through me debugging if I have to. I'm going to test it. If there are any errors, I'll let you guys know. I'll be back in a sec. Hey guys, Corey back. It's the next day. I couldn't fix the error before I went to sleep that night. I was able to fix it, and so it works now. I can give you a quick demo. Let's see. Server, let me just run the server. And then command. So to help, show to myself that the client side and the file transfer is working between the server and the client, I put a copy of the client program in documents, and kind of put some text files apart from the two. And if it was working, the text files I send to the server from the client should pop up on the desktop, and vice versa. The ones coming from the server should pop in documents, and that was working. So the command line's working. I can do command line commands. I can do directory. I can, so it's as if I was remotely connecting to the server. It's like I'm on the command line of the server. It's almost like our own version of SSH. I can change the directory I'm in. A lot of different things like that. CD desktop. Now, if I want to upload and download files, file.txt. So I'm going to upload that. Okay. Now I'm going to download file test file.txt. I'm going to do 2 because I have another one that I'm going to try and download. File downloaded, and then if we right quit, it'll close it. We'll leave the server running. Now if we come to documents, we should see all right, yeah, we see test file and test file 2, and then the desktop, test file and test file 2. I just put random words in there, random letters. All right, so it's working. That's great. So let's go over the code because the error that I was getting, like the file transfer wouldn't go on, like they'd get in an endless loop. So I changed a lot of things, moved a lot of things around trying to fix it, and eventually I fixed it. Not quite exactly sure what fixed it, but we're going to go over through the code together for one final last look, and it'll be a recap for us on kind of how far we've come and what the code does as a whole, because next time we're going to like clean up the code a lot and write testing stuff for it. And in order to test it and make sure everything's working, we got to make sure we understand how it works on the inside. So let's start with the client, pretty basic. A couple functions, but let's not look at here first. Let's start down here. So we just make a socket, we connect to the server, we know what's going on here. We just input our message, and if the message is write quit, or if it's nothing, because like we said, we ran into that problem of if we send nothing, the other guy won't even, we'll be sitting there waiting for the results to be sent back for us, of whatever we've done, and he'll just be sitting there waiting for these results, but he didn't send anything. So if he didn't send anything, the other guy's not going to be sending anything back. So I just do continue there because it skips back to the top of the loop. And if it's write quit and I skip back to the top of the loop, it'll see now that it's write quit, and then just jump down here and close. Next, we just have the download file. Just find the file name, put it into the function. Upload file, just get the file name, put it into the function along with the socket connection that we have. Then it waits for results because every function it calls, from just sending stuff to the command line of the server to the custom functions that we've written, I wrote in some results that are going to get sent back and forth. So he'll wait for the results and let them know for you. So the results we were seeing was like the directory calls and the changed directory and the file uploaded and file downloaded. That's all the results that got back from the server. Now, the server would still send that back even if there was a problem. So in a future video, we're going to put in a bunch of error handling. What happens if the file doesn't exist, if you type in a command wrong? Well, because we have it piped to the command line, we already have that taken care of, but it's mainly just going to be for files. What happens if the file doesn't exist, and what happens if there's a problem reading the file? And we're going to deal with that, because if one guy has a problem reading it, and he just kind of aborts, and the other guy's still waiting for the info, they're going to get out of sync again, and the whole server is going to go down. Well, the client handler and the client relationship is going to go down on the whole server. So we just print out those results for us. The functions are quite simple. In fact, I'd say they're even simpler now. Receive file, file name, connection. We just open the file as file, read all the bytes from it. And we're going to read it, well, we're not going to read them all in one go. We're going to read them in little chunks. So we're going to read 1024 bits at a time. If the size is less than 1024, we know we're at the end, right? We ran out of, there's not enough to read 1024, so we're at the end. So we might as well just send it and then break out. We're good. We don't need to check for that done stuff, because sending done, I kind of felt like the more you send things, the more chance you have to run into errors and such. Like if the other guy happens to not read something so well, sometimes it gets tacked on at the end of the previous message, and then he'll be sitting there waiting. That's probably the error. That's what my bet, because when I took that out, it actually started working. So that's my bet on what the error was, is that it would send done so fast after the previous data chunk that it would get tacked on to the end of a message, and that when he was reading it in, he would read in the done, but he checks to see if the entire message is equal to done, right? And since it's on the end of that message, he doesn't see it, and they get out of sync. Otherwise, just send the data and then when we're all done, well, for here we're receiving it, so we're just going to read it in. And if we read in a chunk that's less than 1024, we know they're done sending because they hit the end of the file. And we're just going to break out, and we're just going to write whatever we got to the file. Pretty straightforward, honestly. Not that big, not that hard to understand. I just imported the sys library, by the way, to check the sizes. Sys.getSizeOf returns its size in bytes. So send file, almost the exact same thing. We're going to open it as file. We're going to read in the chunk. We're going to send it. If we notice that it's less than 1024, we will break out because we know we're done. And we don't need to send any message letting them know because they will also see, because these functions are identical on either side. Just one is a class and one's not. If they see it's less than 1024, they will break out as well. So we'll be okay. Yeah, so it's pretty straightforward. That's all we got on the client side. Real quick go over there. Client handler is pretty much the same. The only thing we have extra in the main loop are this stuff. If they send a command that's not recognized, well, we know they're waiting for some results, so we're just going to pipe it out to the command line, see what results we get, and send it back. I didn't really change anything over there. The only thing I changed here is I actually put surrounded this thing in decode.utf8 because it returns it in a weird, it returns it in a weird kind of data type that if you put str on the outside, it doesn't quite do it right for you. I think it actually returns it in bytes. If you put decode there, like if you don't put this here, like if this is gone and you just put a string, even if you send this, even though you've made it into a string and you send it out and decode and encode and anything on the way of sending, it doesn't work. You have to decode it here because I believe it comes back in bytes. So if I just straight up try to do it in string, it's like it doesn't do the decoding for me. It doesn't do the decoding for me. It just looks in there and says, oh, what would this be as a string if it weren't bytes? But it tacks on that little b out front because it's still bytes. It's just telling us what the string equivalent would be. Well, decode actually converts it from bytes to a string. Hope that made sense. Let me stick those back in there. Delete my parentheses. Otherwise, everything up here, just download file and just send file downloaded. We know that every time they call a command, we have to send them something because they're waiting for the results. So if they call download file, I'll just say file downloaded. Upload file, just file uploaded when we're done. And then they do change directory, well, I'll just send them the current directory. Here, I'll just send them the results that the command line had, the console gave us. Same functions over here. Send file and receive file are the exact same, just instead of sock, instead of having to pass in a sock, we can just do our self.con because we're in a class. Next video, we'll turn this into a class and show you why, because, spoiler alert, ease of importing into other code and ease of testing, ease of maintenance. There's a lot of reasons, and we'll go over that when we convert it to clients. So now you get a pretty good contrast of what something not as a class looks like and what something as a class looks like. And when we start writing testing programs, you'll see that working with the class is a bit easier, especially when you want to implement it into other programs. So receive file, yeah, it's the exact same deal, just with self. Send file is the exact same as the other one, just with self.con instead of passing in a connection. And then I don't believe I changed send and receive data at all. Yeah, I did not. Receive data just receives it and decodes it. Send data just encodes it, and if there's an error, it just lets us know what it is. Did we send in bad data? Did we send in something else? That's basically it for now. All right, so we already demoed it off. I think the demo's still going in the background. Let's see. So I want to go to documents, cd documents, python client.py. Yeah, okay, so we're still running in the background. Right, quit. Yeah, so it's everything's working well. I've tested it pretty thoroughly. I've sent in junk inputs just to show you what that looks like. If before, you may have noticed if you're testing it and you put in nothing, it'll get out of sync and it wouldn't work. Client.py. Now if I put in anything, it just skips to the next line. If I put in nothing, or if I put in junk, it says it's not recognized. I can even put in command line commands, sends back hi. I can upload the file still, txt, stuff like that. If I do upload file and I do a junk name, Yeah, see, we get an error. And so that's what we're going to deal with after we write kind of test and clean up the code a little bit. We're going to write error handling. That's going to be the last thing we do. So for now, I think that's everything for this episode. I hope you guys learned something new, and I'll see you in the next video.